The haters said that Diane wasn't coming back. The haters said that she was dead. No. The return of Diane. She is back in the Senate. She's making it happen. And you know what? She looks great.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that Diane wasn't coming back after a weekend of partying with John Morant. But she showed that work and pleasure don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. She's come back better than ever. Obviously, there are a lot of reporters asking, sort of gossip questions like, are you and Ja dating? Even though they've said they're just friends, and they're obviously taking their time on it. And are you dying? Stuff like that. But the moment I saw her soy sauce colored hair, I knew she was back.
She's thriving, clearly.
She's doing great. And eagle-eyed watchers of John Morant's Instagram, he was holding up one of her colostomy bags in the background of an IG video. And I don't know if the league will get involved, but he's out of the playoffs now. He's got time on his hands. Diane, she's showing up to the Senate looking like Stephen Hawking, and she's like asking. And look, like she spent some time away, but she's coming back and she's asking these Republicans. She's asking them some hard questions, like, "Where am I? Who are you?
Is this the River Styx? Are you Hades?" One may say she showed up looking like Stephen Hawking. That's certainly true. I personally found her to have shown up looking like the troll face.
Problem?
That's what her face looked like to me. She was stroked out.
She's doing fine. Man. Don't worry about it. Your hand is your index finger is supposed to be at a 90-degree angle to the rest of your hand.
Yeah. She's awesome.
Felix, I think you had this exactly right. And that, like, I see a lot of people. Once again, they're hating on Diane. They're complaining about it. They're like, this is a disgrace. She's even back in DC, still missing votes. And but like, here's the thing. Everyone, whether it's Joe Biden or Dianne Feinstein, like, everyone is always talking about how they want to see these rotten sort of Vichy Democrats punished for their, like, inability to surrender power, or for essentially spending their entire careers basically voting like Republicans, until you see them actually be punished. I mean, like, do you want Joe Biden and Dianne Feinstein to, like, retire and spend the waning hours of their lives surrounded by loved ones? Or do you want them to be, like, tormented in an undignified fashion so that, like, every waking second of their life is just confusion, fear, and pain? Because, I mean, what do you want here? Make up your mind, folks.
You cannot look at her and be like, oh, she's getting the best of this one. She's having the time of her life.
Oh, that's Diane. She got us again.
Yeah, she's having the best Twilight years ever.
I've been thinking about watching them watching them wheel her around is so I have the John Cougar Mellencamp song Jack and Diane stuck in my head, and just the chorus, "Oh yeah, life goes on long after the thrill of living is gone." Here's a little ditty about Chuck and Diane. I don't know if you guys, like, Ken Klippenstein did that, posted the names of all of her staffers who are, I don't know what power they really have over. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, force her to retire? Like, I mean,
I do get his point, though. I do want to defend him. Like, there is something unsavory about, like, being that person and then faced with, like, a pretty insane choice, and the choice you make is like, oh, we're gonna wheel this old bag of bones around until I can work for Chris Dodd or something. They're shitty people, and I have no objection to them being made feel uncomfortable. The thing is, though, that's kind of what every staffer is like. You know what I mean? I'm faced with the same conundrum as when, I was supposed to feel really bad for the Amy Klobuchar staffers who got mugs thrown at them. It's like, well, you chose to work for Amy Klobuchar. Pretty much every staffer is just this person, and they're all pretty much terrible.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I wasn't mad at Ken for doing so. It's just, I mean, it was funny to me to see their photographs, and they're all like these chipper 23-year-olds, and then to see the photo of Diane today, it's just
what I don't get is what. Oh no, Diane finds. I guess the critique that you're doing elder abuse. Okay, but again, as we discussed, if anyone on earth deserves elder abuse, it's these people. So What is the thing here? No, we need a vital young Democrat from California to do what exactly?
Behave exactly
if it wasn't for Dianne Feinstein, they'd be holding hearings on Clarence Thomas, and he'd be out of the Supreme Court by now. Are you high? They're not. They're doing exactly what they want to do. Remember when they pulled the parliamentarian out of their asshole to blame for something? The fact that this old lady is we can't do something because old lady isn't here. You think if there was a young lady, they would do the thing, and they wouldn't find another reason not to do the thing you want them to do? They will not do the thing you want them to do.
Matt. I want them to spoon feed Dianne Feinstein soft serve ice cream on the floor of the Senate and have her sort of like spit up a little bit and sort of dab her mouth with it as she, like one of those chocolate vanilla swirls. And
I think they should diaper them. I think they should do baby play with our aged legislators.
There's always going to be like it's like it's like got a little bit of Diane spirit in me just now. There's always going to be a little bit of like, it's sort of like I would say like an item burden for the Democratic Party, right? And it's like when you're in an RPG and you carry a certain amount of items, and suddenly your character starts grunting and can't roll anymore, and you probably get a little flashy notification that's like you have too much stuff on you, you got to drop it, and you're just desperately trying to toss aside sorcerer staffs and robes. The Democratic Party works the same way, where it's like when they have exactly 60 votes, they're like, we're at capacity. We're at capacity. We just can't do that. We just can't get to that point. We can't do the public option. When that number is moved down to just 51 or 52, the item burden is much lower. We can't confirm those judges. We could do exactly this amount of shit. It's, there's a million reasons why it's that way, but, they just, they max out. They have a certain number of spoons that they have,
Currently, all the spoons in the Democratic Party are feeding creamed corn to Diane.
Yeah.
I know. I only bring up Diane's staffers because I wanted to make the point that any of the people that any of these bright young faces or sadistic abusers, depending on how you want to look at it, none of those people that Ken highlighted I find anywhere near as annoying as this dickhead that was in Politico today. Did you see this piece about like the Dianne Feinstein staffer who like did a like protest quit and like smoked a joint in her office, or like he took mushrooms and then walked into her office and he was just like, yeah. It was the most try-hard bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Can I read you a little bit of this Politico story, guys? Mm. His name is Jamarcus Purley, and it says here, he had a plan. He was going to expose the truth about what he'd seen, heard, and felt here, an experience he knew would resonate with other black staffers, and he was going to do it in a way that people wouldn't be able to ignore. It was an act of protest that would create a temporary stir in the normally staid halls of Congress, but it would help. It would help reveal, at least for me, a reporter working on a book about post-Trump Washington, a network of undercovered and often marginalized people who make Washington work, even if they can't get to work for them. Here's a guy who went to Stanford, worked for Dianne Feinstein, and then like discovered like, she's actually bad. He decided to make a statement that would really count for marginalized people, and it involved taking mushrooms and walking around the halls of Congress, and then filming himself listening to an R&B song in her office while he basically did Lib January 6th, but to his former boss. It says here, Purdy started his half-decade of service in Feinstein's office as a staff assistant. In 2 years, he had been promoted to legislative correspondent. The mid-level job involved drafting letters to constituents, and over time, Purdy grew frustrated with the work. The official language used in these missives felt patronizing and hard for normal people to understand. He'd begun responding to constituents using his own voice, writing in a way that he felt wouldn't alienate black people. At times, he said his boss would tell him that his job was to reflect the senator's voice, not his own. But Purley didn't stop. Instead, he started sending responses without permission. I mean, I like the idea that this guy was like, I don't know, he was like responding in a way that wouldn't alienate black people, but like, was he just responding to people on Dianne Feinstein's letterhead as Dianne Feinstein, but in like AAVE or something?
That'd be cool.
He had planned to film a video where he would recite the injustices he'd seen and felt working in the Senate. But on the walk over to the Capitol, he had changed the plan. Instead of using his voice, he would simply put on music and smoke a joint while looking directly at the camera. He believed this gesture would work like a piece of protest art, grabbing people's attention on a visceral level, making them ask questions about what could lead a person to pull off such a stunt, which he would then enter in detail. Shut the fuck up.
Such a stunt. A drug that's like a drug that like is like less illegal than cigarettes now. Wow, a joint. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, if he'd taken bath salts and started eating people's faces, no one might be somewhere.
Is this like the liberal version of the end of the first Matrix movie where Neo hangs up the payphone and starts flying?
I'm gonna wake these people up, Diane.
Yeah.
No, but like senators and the people who work for them should be abused at all times, and this utterly try hard, petulant little protest of this asshole who then went on to, I think, work for or contribute to a blog called Dear White Staffers, where it's just like, talking about all the like, I mean, it's pretty funny though. He does talk about how Dianne Feinstein staffers like touched his hair and stuff like that. But you get what you got. You got the job you wanted. Stop complaining.
They touch it. Isn't that like the one thing you like are supposed to learn if you go to Oberlin? Like if you take away one thing, if you like go to graduate school long enough, you would hope that you at least don't do that. Like you'd hope that would be the one takeaway. Why even go to grad school if you can't manage not to do that? Jesus.
He said that she cared about her dog more than the lives of black people, which like I think is almost certainly true, but like I could be applied to just the people in general. I don't mean to both sides it or whatever, but I can almost guarantee Dianne Feinstein cares more about her dog than almost any human being on the planet. But there is another funny piece, another thing in the piece where he recounts a story about how she mistook Raphael Warnock for Tim Scott.
Good Lord.
Or I don't know. She mistook Tim Scott for Raphael Warnock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it like staffers his age were asking to touch his hair?
I don't know. Let me find
I'm just stuck on that because it just like, I don't know. Like if you're a lib, after like the last, 6 years, and you don't know not to do that, like you weren't paying attention at all.
Yeah, it says here, things had come to a head 2 weeks earlier on a phone call with other members of the office. Pearlie had let loose, airing his concerns for what felt like 10 minutes. He talked about the coworkers who had touched his hair while he sat at his desk, how the senator hadn't even learned his name or spoken to him despite 5 years of service to her, how the chief of staff seemed to be operating as a shadow senator since the actual one, in his opinion, was no longer mentally there. So yeah, not clear who was touching his hair in the Dianne Feinstein office, but it's just like, oh, she didn't learn your name after 5 years of working for her? Welcome to DC, asshole.
I have news for you about her kids' names. That's the thing. Is like it sounds terrible. The job he did, it sounds like it sucked. At the same time, though, is like, even if Dianne Feinstein was like, if her brain wasn't seeping out of her ears, like, she's not going to learn your name anyway.
Yeah, that's not a possibility.
Like, these are not like compassionate, nice people.
And like, I guess like his little mushroom sojourn around the Capitol, or even like smoking a joint at her desk. I mean, like, I guess I could like stomach that if it was just sort of a funny theatrical way of quitting a job. And that he was sharing these stories in the spirit of like, can you believe how funny and stupid everything in DC is? That'd be one thing. But the fact that he said that this would be a protest on behalf of marginalized voices who are otherwise not spoken for in the halls of power is just, and it's like, this guy went to Stanford. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, if you went to Stanford, what the fuck do you think the Senate is?
I mean, you should have at least like run into some, children of senators in your time there. And that should have given you a clue what you were getting into.
Well, once again, I have to reiterate my support for Diane. I just stick with it, honey. You're doing great.
She can. I just hope that she's there in DC and she just keeps missing votes and she just keeps not showing up.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.